Well, what is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of RJ's Game Builder Garage episodes, where, if you couldn't tell by all the electrical stuff here, especially these Arduinos, we're going to be taking a look at AGTD today. I've been meaning to do this video for a few months now, and unfortunately, I've had a collection of Arduinos. This is the first one that I ended up with, which is the Uno, but when I heard about AGTD existing, I was like, oh, that would be cool to have, but unfortunately, these Arduinos, if you don't realize, well, they don't support being used as a mouse because they have if it would focus, they have a separate USB controller which only allows them to be used for being a serial out, and it also kind of explains the fact that I'm literally using my old laptop as a backdrop because we're going to be logging into this thing, and I'm going to kind of give you a little tutorial on how to get it to work, especially if you've gotten into OSs like Linux, which are a completely different thing in of itself if you know anything about that OS. So yeah, in fact I haven't even installed the Arduino IDE on this, so I'm going to give a little tutorial for that. And yeah, so basically I ordered a Leonardo, which is supposed to be kind of like the Uno, but it's a tad bit smaller and it's designed to be used as its own thing. It's not really supposed to be an Uno. And yeah, and I've built this little contraption with the button because, yeah, we're going to be wiring that to pin 9 and ground, so we don't need a pull-up resistor. In fact, the way it was programmed in, you won't need it. So yeah, and so yeah, it's pretty good because we're going to be going and using this instead of stuff, and we're even going to be, later in today's video, we're going to be going back into good old the good old flight sim that I made like a few months ago. In fact, that was kind of when I figured out about this from the Video Dojo video. Yeah, that's when I was finishing up on that. So let's get right into it. Alright, so before we get started, like I said, I already built this little button to pin 9 thing. There are very wildly different concepts to get it to start. This button is to basically start AGTD in generating your texture. So let's hook that into pin 9, which is the thing that'll tell it to do so, to do its job. And let's get the wire in there. I've had these breadboard wires for a while and they are kind of garbage and shot and stuff. If I could find the ground, fortunately I bought a cheaper Leonardo, so I don't have the printing on the sides of the pin headers like I do my Unos. Won't focus, but yeah, you can see there's a little bit of printing on the sides of the pin headers. But in this case, yeah, I sure do hope that, yeah, it looks like I've connected it between 9 and ground. The reason why you're connecting it between 9 and ground with no pull-up resistors in between, because I know there's going to be at least one person in the comments, they're probably going to be like, you need to put the pull-up resistor in between it. But no, and you'll kind of see why in a second, because yeah, the C++ has been configured so you don't have to do that. And yeah, so now let's log into this boy and get this programmed up with AGTD. Alright, so this part of the video I did record in the past, but it didn't really go through very well when I initially recorded it, and this is how you actually get your hands on AGTD's source code. So you have to be in Discord. Namely, you have to be in the Video Dojo Discord server to download it, because if I remember right, Scrubz and Borri, they didn't really put it up on GitHub or anything like that. But what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go into the Help and Tutorials channel, and you're going to basically click on the pin messages, and there's a little pin message down here with the texture tools. Yeah, so it features both the texture builder HTML page that Scrubz made and Borri's AGTD Arduino system. And if you click on this link, what it'll do is it brings you into the help and tutorials for the for the texture tools, and we're going to go back into pin messages again, and this is where you'll get your latest versions. This is the Arduino code, and that's the HTML page where you can download it from. Pretty simple as that. Alright, another thing you have to do after you get those files off of Discord is you have to download the Arduino IDE, which on Linux is a completely different process. Now, I did shoot a bit of footage about how to do that in the other stuff, but that didn't come out well either, so I'm just gonna have it here. There's a series of like around 6 commands you have to run in the terminal to run it and get it working. I'm just gonna have them on screen here and now. What these commands do specifically is it downloads the Arduino IDE's source code for you off of their GitHub repository, and their GitHub repository also has a tutorial on how to actually get it working and built, and basically you have to compile it yourself, but luckily the compilation tool they use is like real easy to work with, and once it finishes up it'll basically install it for you, and it'll basically create all the things on all your app launchers and all of the stuff even on your desktop, so all of the stuff is handled for you. And yeah, now after you get the Arduino IDE opened, on Linux you actually have to enable the permissions to use the serial ports so you can use the Arduino, because if you've ever worked with Arduino, you know that it works as a serial device on first use. With the Leonardo you can change that a little, but yeah, you don't get access to it instantly on Linux like you do on Windows or Mac. So there's this command you have to run. I'm going to pop it up here, and this other command that I'm going to pop down here that will let you do it. The first command you can run just once, and then you log back in. You log out, log back into the OS, and you're okay. And the other one, you might have to run it every time. It varies every so often. It depends on what kind of Arduino board you're using. I understand it could get a little annoying for stuff like AGTD, where you're going to be constantly reflashing it with new images once you get done, but honestly, it's not the best solution. And yeah, that's mostly it. Alright, so it has compiled, and yeah, it's now ready. Had to relog in order to get it to work, but yeah, so now we've got that in, and let's get GBG set up on the gaming PC so we can have on the capture card, so we can see what the output is like. Alright, so we're here in Game Builder Garage, like always, and yeah, so now I'm going to plug this mouse in, and there we go, it shows up as a mouse. Let's push the magic button and see what it does. I'm going to put this on a time lapse, so yeah. Alright, so it didn't really finish drawing, and instead it had a little bit of an issue. Basically what had happened is that I think what it was doing was it was trying to swap its color palette, and then you can kind of see how it went all over the place and crazy and stuff with the textures. And yeah, basically what had happened is that it basically became a little like the texture kind of got like halfway through and it stopped rendering, and there we go. It came out as a rabbit, as a demo image. What I'm going to try now is I'm going to try reprogramming it, but I'm going to put in a special image from the Linux community that I think will look very out of place on GBG, but let's try it. Alright, so let's give it a bit of an image that I think will kind of sum up the experience of getting it to run on Linux, and that is the Tux Penguin. You know, gotta always try this, and in fact we're just gonna save the image where it is. There we go. We got tux. Choose the file. Alright, so we got our image in. We're going to download it as a CSV because, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open it up in the text editor. Of course, this is a kind of large file. I think because we went with a full res file, it probably generated something too big. So let's try and let's try and paste that into our image space, see if that'll even go. Judging by the fact that the little bunny image from before took up quite a lot of space here. Yeah. So let's try and replace all of this with good old Linux. There we go. So that is our image. Alright, so I have just uploaded this this new image onto the Arduino, and now let's get right back to the switch, which I've left on hold for a while, and we'll unplug the Arduino for now, and let's get back into good old GBG, and we'll see what it does. Now, I did a bit more reading up on it, and apparently it can create the texture for you. It will do the going into the menu stuff for you, so that'll be pretty cool. So yeah, let's plug it in there, and magic button now. Alright, so it looks like we've got a perfectly generated image of Tux the Penguin, you know, from the Linux community. And there we go. Linux Community Game Builder Garage, I guess. Even though the Switch has nothing to do with the Linux kernel. Actually, it has a couple things, but I'm not going to go into them because that's developer stuff. But yeah, so that's pretty cool. So, as I've said, AGTD, it's a pretty cool little tool. If you're willing to spend the $16 for the Arduino Leonardo, it's definitely a good recommendation. Of course, that price is subject to change. Best recommendation would be the Video Dojo video, which is the absolute best at explaining this if you aren't using Linux, because, yeah, Linux is hell, if you think about it. And this kind of brings me on to a bit of an idea that I have for AGTD. Since it uses a library to basically emulate a mouse, I'm thinking of actually making a specialized mouse that uses the Leonardo, has AGTD built in, but it's a modded version that allows for it, and it also has the software so it can flash the Arduino like immediately. I am probably going to be, in fact, I'm going to be working on that as like an on-off series on this channel. So if you want, please leave a like and subscribe, or subscribe for that at least. I'm probably going to start making some videos maybe in a couple weeks about that. I've got a few designs. I've started the GitHub repository for that, oddly enough, and you can actually, and it only really has a possible design for the mouse itself, like possible electrical schematics, so if you want to see that, go right ahead. But yeah, for something pretty simple with an Arduino Leonardo, it's not a bad concept. Another thing I'm going to be doing with this is that I'm going to be basically, I'm going to be using some of the texture packs. Scrubz made a texture pack that was designed perfectly for this AGTD system, but I'm going to be putting in some actual textures, maybe even some from Minecraft, I'm thinking. I'm going to put it in the flight sim game, and like I've said before, we're going to be putting in some new textures for Visualized, which because I'm one of the developers for Visualized, I'm going to be probably bringing that in from there to here. So yeah, it's a pretty cool little project. If if I had to give this, if I was reviewing this, I'd give this a straight up 10 out of 10. This is what's led to a bunch of these high quality games. All those games that when I did that tier list that got S tier likely had textures from this. So, well, from this piece of code. So, honestly, it's really worth the 5 minutes it takes for it to happen. You know, so huge shout out to Scrubz and Borri, the actual makers of this whole system. And yeah, again, subscribe to see more projects from me. We're currently working on Visualized, which is an actual game that I've made with a friend of mine, and of course I'm now working on the GBG versions, so yeah. Also, again, GBG mouse, that's going to be a project, I guess. And yeah, that's going to be it for today's video. And bye.